What is up? Welcome back to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. Today's video, we are going to be taking a look at the top Bitcoin mining stocks, doing some views or looking at the charts, some technical analysis, and breaking those down. Let's start off with CNN, fear and greed, and we can see that the stock market ticking back up in the greed from neutrality territory. However, with crypto, we are still in neutrality. When we take a look out, we have been in this downtrend. I've been wondering how crypto will react to rate cuts. I talked about that a lot in yesterday's video, so subscribe to hear more about that. But the reason I am wondering, last year when we did get that rate cut cycle, we can see crypto responded fairly well over the next coming months. Of course, Bitcoin putting in a new all-time high, continuing to do that, and it finished by January. So if rate cuts are going to be positive, then maybe we can expect a rebound here. And we already had a negative August. So maybe, September tends to be more negative than August. Maybe this is flipping this time around. Now, for today's video, we're going to be talking about many of these top 10 miners, but just something to take note of. You see Bitfarms with the big pump there. Over the last month or two, we have seen miners one by one getting these positive moves, 10 to 15%, 20% sometimes. We saw TeraWolf get a bump up. We saw Cypher get a bump up, Riot a little bit, maybe Mara soon, fingers crossed. Iron, of course, had a very positive move up, continues to get into new all-time high territory. So one by one, these miners are going, and something to keep in mind is that these Bitcoin miners tend to top with Bitcoin. They don't top after. And I'll get into Bitcoin and all that really quick, but we don't get an alt season for miners per se. Again, these top with Bitcoin, and it makes sense because MicroStrategy, they own the most amount of Bitcoin. The miner Marathon, they own the second most amount of Bitcoin last I checked. So it makes sense they top with it or even slightly before the top. But once Bitcoin tops and it's too expensive to keep buying, that's when you get that rotation into alts and get that alt season. So again, miners typically in the past will top with or just before these peaks. If we take a look at Mara and zoom way out and we add on a Bitcoin here, we can see that reflected pretty well. So Mara 2017 topping just before Bitcoin, 2021 topping with it. As I was talking about with MicroStrategy, these large Bitcoin mining or Bitcoin holders, you can see MicroStrategy topping before it last cycle, 2017. I don't even know if MicroStrategy was big back then, but just something to keep in mind for this cycle. If miners really start to take off with Bitcoin, you got to be paying attention. Anyways, let's get over to Bitcoin. And right now we see that Bitcoin is moving above this trend line and is staying with it. If we take a look at the last month, we see Bitcoin hanging around this trend line, even making a possible move up towards this 236 at around 117.7. We'll see what happens there. But let's zoom out on the daily, and we can see there's this inverse head and shoulders right here on that trend line that Bitcoin is now above. I do think that's bullish. I do think that rate cuts, even if there's some negative price action, that this will ultimately be bullish for it. If there is any unforeseen things or negativity in the markets, I still think this 102 area around the 1618, as well as the 200-day moving average, would be a nice low area at worst. But you can see here we have this fib retracement, our Fibonacci indicators, our golden ratio. We have 618 retracement. We are moving up to that right now. So watch what happens at around 117.7 for Bitcoin. Anyways, let's get into our mining stocks and let's go through them one by one. Let's go through iron. And my God, this thing is blowing past its former all-time high. So this thing came out right at the peak of the bull market, the second of the double tops in 2021. And man, it fell. How much did it fall? Like 96%? Crazy. But if you've been getting iron down here, $2, $3, $6, you have seen nice returns from those lows. And iron is looking at getting to its 1618 fib extension at around $44. Now, Currently, IRON has a market cap near 10 billion. So let's say you invested $1,000 and you wanted that money to double to $2,000, then you would want to see this do a 2x. Now, we can do simple math. 36 times 2 is 72, and we would have a 20 billion market cap around there. That $72 area, 2x would be right here at the 2618. Now, IRON's doing very good right now. This is, there's things about IRON and the miners having some AI connections. That's probably why this one's pumping hard right now. But that $72 area, if we get to that area for IRON, I'd say even now at near this 1618, now it's not the point to necessarily be buying. You're probably chasing because you're at all-time highs. But considering where are your dollar cost average out targets, where are you looking to take profits? Are you looking to take profits around 72? Do you think it can 3x, get up here towards 98 if you're buying now? So I think obviously you are taking on a lot of risk. And also look how detached IRON is from these moving averages. So eventually they will revert back down to those, even in a bullish scenario. But IRON doing very well right now. And now is the time to be talking about having conversations about profit taking, not entries, in my opinion. So those are some targets for IRON. The number 2 miner, we have Riot surpassing Mara. Mara's got to get going, man. So IRON, we have our fib high to low here. It is getting above that 0.5 fib retracement. And this is, look at this big channel down here. Been getting some Riot down in this channel, the lower ends. Remember talking about how Riot at $7 is a can't miss. And we are getting near 3x right there. So if we really get going out of this channel here, I think this golden pocket area, the 618 to the 65, let me show you what the golden pocket area looks like, 0.65. If you hear people talking about, that's what they're saying, that is the 618 to the 65. Watch what happens in this range. Would not doubt to see some level of profit taking there. But then if we connect, this is something I consider with Riot. If we connect the tops that Riot has had, we see a trend line get as high as 200. Could Riot 10x from here? I don't know about that, to be honest. We have the 1618 at around 126. Even that is very, very aggressive for it. And, we have a $6-ish billion market cap. So, you have to consider if Riot was doing a 10x, we're talking $60 billion miner. Maybe that's up for you to decide. Now, last cycle, if you reverse the math, the top market caps would have been somewhere in the $20-30 billion range. I've said that the top areas for the top miners, market cap wise, would be somewhere around 50 billion. This cycle, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I could be wrong about that, but that is an area I am watching for as far as Riot's concerned. Would be those targets. Anyways, let's hit on our stochastic RSI as well as our MACD for Riot here. We'll use last week I think we did the MACD. Maybe this week, maybe let's do the ultimate RSI. I like that one more. Let's get rid of that moving average right now. We can always bring it back. Let's do the ultimate RSI by Lux Algo. Shout out to them. This MACD is showing very positive movements. In the ultimate RSI, it's still showing that we can get even higher. Now, right at the peak here, the pinnacle, you can see it can come up a little bit, take a little pullback, and really get overbought. This is all the way at 99. So Riot, it could be setting up for a large move there, but definitely looking very good on those charts. Let's do this here. All right, let's go to Mara next. Mara, this has a lot of room to move up. It has all those moving averages. Now, one thing that's nice about Mara is that it has had a buy signal this week on the weekly. And so right now, if you did miss Mara last week or any of these weeks we've been talking about when it was boring, this is showing you a weekly buy signal. Now, it might hurt to be buying at 17 instead of 15 when you could have had it in there. You could look for a little bit of a pullback, but this last week Mara's been chopping around. It's having a big move up, so maybe if it gets down somewhere around that mid 16 area, if things stay bullish, that might be as low as it'll go. But Mara, if it starts moving up through its channel, the true test will be around that golden pocket area. That's right where it runs into the descending channel trend line. Did not know we were going to be talking so much about golden pockets today. But that golden pocket area runs right into where the trend line for the channel is. So watch what happens there at around 25, 26 bucks. But Mara, I have high hopes for this one too. Should it get the former all-time highs or new all-time highs, I think this thing can run. Right now it has a market cap of $6 billion. Again, if it's getting anywhere above 40 to 50 billion, you got to be considering taking profits, in my opinion. And I think the RSI is showing that there is a lot of room to run for Mara. Let's get into Core Scientific. And, this one did well earlier last year from June to November. Someone asked about it all the way back here, and I hope that person bought because they would have a nice 5x right now. Core's at its 888 fib. It did break over this descending trend line. That is a good thing. Let's go to the daily. These newer cryptos, you want to zoom in here. And this thing is it kept testing that 50-day moving average. Said, maybe this is the area to buy cores, but it's got to get above that 888. And should it get above its former all-time high, this thing can really fly. So it is still technically overbought. We do see somewhat of a downward trend here. But yeah, we'll see what happens as far as cores. Because if we're getting lower prices, lower strength, this thing may still retest yet again before going up. It could be forming a giant pennant shape. We don't need to draw that out for cores. All right, let's get to Cypher. Man, Cypher, this is crazy. So Cypher used to be down in the number 10 region, even on their CleanSpark. It's CleanSpark going to have its time soon, but Cypher had a nice pump recently. Glad to see it. Have a little bit of Cypher myself, and oh my God. Let's take a look here at the weekly. You can see how overbought the weekly RSI is. I do want to remove that though, just to extend the fib here. You can see how long it's been. We have not extended the fib for some time. So Cypher getting above its 888, had a nice move above that trend line, kind of falling in iron pattern, if you will. Let's remove that trend line here. Getting extended from those fibs. If it starts moving past its former all-time high, heck, it's above the 888. But let's take that fib off log, and we can see 1618 target, 24 bucks. It's almost a little bit over a 2x from here. Let's add on, let's do the bubble risk indicator. I'm curious where the bubble risk indicator, it's all the way up here over 100. So as this thing pumps, these bubble risk indicators, they can go really high, but it's definitely, it's starting to get to that time where it's like, okay, where are we going to be taking profits for these miners? It does have a $5 billion market cap. And, part of, again, where I'm looking at taking profits with miners is near where Bitcoin's topping. I believe Bitcoin has a topping range between 150 and 200K. And we'll see where that happens, and we'll see how miners respond. Are some of these like Cypher only going to be at the 1618? Are they going to blow that out of the water? Are they going to be way past that? Are they going to have market cap of 30 billion and do a 6x from here? If this did do a 6x, it would get all the way up here. So something to consider. Make those calculations. We've been talking about these for a while, and it looks like they are starting to possibly get ready for a run. If we get another 4-year cycle, we could be setting up for a Bitcoin mining stock run as we approach that time. So, anywho, let's get to TeraWulf. Let's go through that right here, TeraWulf. And this one, we were talking about price targets for it. Let's go look at price in between right now. So Wolf getting above its golden pocket. We do have this ascending channel. I am curious to see where things ultimately end up with Wolf, if it can break up out of that channel, if it's just going to keep falling with it. Maybe get to the 786, come back down, get up here near the 888. Some things to consider. So you want to see these massive structures get broken if you're feeling really bullish on it. Wolf has a market cap of around 4 billion or 4.5 billion. So if it's going to have a 9 billion market cap and get somewhere around 20, we're talking about Wolf again in that, still being in that channel. A 3x, a 4x, 4x gets it back to this area. And something to keep in mind is the last two tops. You can see this is 2014, 2017. Let's go to alt season or the Bitcoin top. Wolf wasn't really doing anything. So who knows what was going on with Wolf back then. 2021 up here, but we have this massive trend line area of around 55. That'd be around a 5x from here. And so if Wolf gets near there, I think you'd really have to consider possibly taking some profits there. But do watch what happens in this channel and some resistance there around the channel in the 786 at around 17. All right, let's go over to HUT. Remember when HUT was having all the legal issues and this thing was not looking so good, is all the way back here, I believe. Somewhere, I started my channel somewhere around here. But you could have got near a 5x from there. So, risk reward HUT, a lot like Wolf, getting to the upper end of that channel, the 786. Watch what happens around 43 if it gets there for HUT. Let's go to BitDeer. BTDR. Just going to fly through some of these. BitDeer. See what happens around the 1618 again if it continues upwards. That is around $22. Last time that was good profit taking area. But if it can break through that and Bitcoin is going really bullish, 2618 is at around 34. Be almost a 2x from here. Again, I'm not saying these are the times to buy. I think you're getting the more risky times if you were buying right now. Just because you haven't been spending that time in the market. Let's go to CleanSpark. And CleanSpark, this one, descending channel, is starting to make a move. It got towards the lower end of that channel. I'm curious, what fib retracement was that? Let's go to the daily. We'll go from that. Of course, that pops up right as I'm trying to do that. We'll go from that low to high. And make sure our fib is on log. And we had about a 0.5, close to a point, or a 618 fib retracement, getting back up above those supports that are the moving averages. And yeah, see what happens here at the macro 618. Break out of this channel. Not only do I believe it could go to the 786, I think we're revisiting all-time highs, possibly doing a 4x from here for CleanSpark, should we get that measured move out of here. So CleanSpark, I do like the potential of revisiting all-time highs. That would be, see its market cap's around 3 billion. That would be around a $12 billion market cap. Some of those price targets, you guys know how to do this. Could this thing 6x and get to its 1618? You can add on, I was talking to someone about this, you can add on the other fib extensions too. You can do like the 1, 2, 3, 6. And I've been thinking, I'm like, why don't I do that? I need to do that more. So, just see those other fib extensions above as well. So yeah, keep an eye on those for CleanSpark. And also, with how, we're talking about price targets here, I think anytime we're talking about price targets, we do have to also ask ourselves, are we talking about these price targets because things are bullish right now? And if they are, how soon is the pullback coming? Because as soon as you start to feel bullish, we're retail. We have to ask ourselves, okay, let's not chase, let's get excited. But, when this eventually does get a pullback, where is that going to be? And are you going to be ready for it? All right, let's go to Bitfarms. Having a nice move here. Bitfarms, BITF. And let's fix this right now. Oh my God. This is this is crazy. So Bitfarms all of a sudden from that 382 just exploded to the 618. We were just looking at that. I mean, yeah, there's a 12% move. My God, this showing 118% going from, that's just today we had a 12% move, but geez, that is really big for a Bitfarm. So again, if these are popping off one by one, are we gearing up for that 4-year cycle yet again? How high could one of these go? Is Bitfarms going to get to 50 billion? I don't believe so. 10 billion, maybe. That's a question to ask yourself. How high will these low caps go? Where are those price targets? But yeah, right now that's looking very good for Bitfarms if you were to buy in down here. So right at that 618, maybe it gets a little bit of a pullback. 618 has been trouble before. But yeah, the next target would be around $5 at the 786. So I have some Bitfarms myself, not a lot, but I have a little, so happy about that. Let's go to Bit Digital, BTBT. We were talking about this one having a juicy looking chart last week. Bit Digital just been sort of consolidating, accumulating over here. Could this be getting ready to pop off? Hanging above, it's 382, right there at the 50-week moving average. If we had on the buy-sell signal, I had a buy signal recently, hitting some resistance. But, if this thing starts to blast up out of nowhere as well, Bit Digital could be making a move real quick, doing a 2x up to $6-7. So something to keep in mind. And Hive, let's go to Hive. I thought Hive did well lately. Maybe it's just having a negative day today. So yeah, we can see Hive. Again, someone, credit to whoever that was in the comments, asked about it down here when it's at $1.84, and we've done near a 2x from there. Now Hive, if it gets above that macro 382 from the side of low, that is bullish. We're above the 50-week. It's also bullish. The 200-week moving average, the channel, all this between now and $5. We break out of that, and Hive could really run. So I do like the upward potential of Hive. We see where those tops were for Hive, and if we draw out a trend line, that'd be around $30. So could Hive do close to, what would that be? 9 times 4, 20. No, that's 36. So something like a 9x, somewhere close to that. I'm just doing the math in my head. 8 times 4, 32. Somewhere around an 8x or so. We were talking about this being a lot more like a 20x down here. So if Hive gets even back there, that'd be pretty good. All right. Anyways, that does it for mining stocks today. How are we feeling about miners today? Are things so bullish that you're getting a little worried? Are you getting excited for a possible 4-year cycle and seeing these start to run and pop off? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.